Catastrophic thinking is when you let your mind spiral down into the worst case scenario. It's when you imagine danger around every corner and when you think that negative outcomes are inevitable. Now, catastrophic thinking can leave you feeling anxious, hopeless, overwhelmed, and stuck. The good news is there are ways to break out of this negative thinking pattern. In this video, I'm going to share with you a very simple 5-step method for overcoming catastrophic thinking and learning how to regain control and find more peace. Hi, I'm Dr. Lori Barker. I'm a therapist, educator, and consultant, and I love teaching people how to improve their mental health and live their best lives. Now, catastrophic thinking is just one of several cognitive distortions that can sabotage your mental health. So if you want to know what the other cognitive distortions are, be sure to check out my video where I go into the 16 main cognitive distortions. So where does catastrophic thinking come from? How does it even start? Well, we don't really know for sure, but here's some possible ideas. One is it's our brain's natural response to perceived danger. So what happens? Our brain sees something, it thinks that we might be in danger, and it goes into fight or flight mode. So it might be our brain's way of trying to protect us. Or catastrophic thinking can come from feeling like we're not prepared for something like a natural disaster. It might be we feel we don't have any control over it, or we feel like we don't have the skills to be able to cope with it. It can also come if we've just gotten stuck in a negative thinking pattern. And that can be because we learned it from other people. Maybe people in our family think that way, or somehow it's come from our environment. And that's how we got stuck in this negative thinking pattern. It can also be out of a fear of the unknown or being uncomfortable with uncertainty. Catastrophic thinking can also come if you have experienced a series of negative events. And so you just start to think that way. Well, things are never going to work out for me. Something bad is always going to happen. It can also come from trauma and depression, and that these are things that amplify negative thoughts. So here are the 5 practical steps that you can take to start working on reducing your catastrophic thinking. Step number 1 is awareness. Catastrophic thinking can feel automatic, like you don't have any control over it. But if you become more aware of the catastrophic thoughts, that can help you feel like you're gaining more control. So when that negative thought pattern begins, you can catch yourself and say, oh, there I go. That is catastrophic thinking. Step number 2 is to imagine the worst case scenario. Now that might seem counterintuitive, but stay with me here. Take that catastrophic thought as far as it can go. What is the absolute worst thing that could happen? For example, suppose you want to ask your boss for a job promotion. The immediate negative thought is probably, well, my boss is just going to say no. Now take that thought as far as it can go. Maybe your boss doesn't just say no. You might think to yourself, what if my boss laughs at me? What if my boss gets mad at me and then fires me, and then I'm going to lose my job? I'm never going to find another job, and I'm going to end up homeless on the street. Now your brain might be saying, or part of your brain might be saying, oh, come on now, that's ridiculous. But the other part of your brain is saying, oh no, that could actually happen. In step number 3, imagine the best case scenario. What's the best thing that could happen? So go to that example again of asking your boss for a job promotion. What is the ideal outcome? Well, of course, if you ask, your boss could say yes and you get the promotion. But what other good things could happen? Maybe it's not just a promotion. Maybe you also get a raise and a bonus. And if you imagine into the future, maybe you continue to move up the ladder and one day you end up as vice president or even CEO of the company. Again, that might seem a little far-fetched, but by thinking of the best case scenario, what you've done is you've opened up the possibility for positive things to happen. Now, in step number 4, think of the most likely scenario. In other words, in reality, what's the most likely thing that could happen? Well, in our example of asking for a job promotion, there are really 2 different things that could happen in reality. One is your boss says yes, and you get the promotion. Great. Another possibility is that you ask and your boss says no. Then what do? Well, then perhaps you go back and you keep working and you do things to prove yourself, maybe to gain more experience. And then later you can come back and ask for the promotion again. Or if your boss says no, maybe that's time to reevaluate things and think, well, maybe it's time for me to move on and find a new job. The last step is step number 5. In this step, ask yourself a question. If the worst case scenario happened, would I be able to handle it? Would I survive? In step number 4, we just said, one of the more realistic, likely things to happen is your boss could say no. And if your boss said no, would you be able to handle that? And chances are the answer is yes. This is just one of many cognitive behavioral techniques that you can use to reduce catastrophic thinking. Some of the other ones are to examine the evidence for and against the catastrophic thought. You can also reframe the situation and try to think of other possibilities besides just the catastrophic one, or think of other factors that could influence the outcome to where it might be more positive or at least neutral. You can also soften the language. Instead of using absolute words like always or never, soften that and say sometimes or maybe. And instead of using those loaded words like it's awful, it's terrible, I'm a failure, soften those words and, well, maybe it's not awful and terrible, maybe it's unfortunate. Or rather than I'm a failure, maybe I made a mistake. Catastrophic thinking is also projecting into the future and where you're imagining a disastrous future. Mindfulness techniques can also be used to reduce catastrophic thinking because mindfulness techniques help bring you back into the present moment. They help ground you and focus you in the present. So things like deep breathing or body scan are mindfulness techniques that are also effective. If you want to know more about these other techniques, be sure to subscribe to my channel and watch the other videos where I give specific instructions on other cognitive behavioral and mindfulness techniques that you can use to improve your mental health. Remember, catastrophic thinking doesn't have to define you. There are ways for you to reduce those negative thoughts and to improve your mental health and feel more in control and more at peace. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.